Have you ever found a house that you really liked, told yourself you were going to think about it, and then by the time you came back to it, it was already gone? Or maybe now there are multiple offers on that home. The seller in turn has more leverage, and what could have been a simple decision has suddenly turned into something that's 10 times more stressful. Well, that is what we're talking about today, because most buyers assume that they lost a home because they had bad luck, when really they lost it because hesitation has a cost in real estate. For those of you who don't know, hi, my name's Kay, giving you the real keys to home ownership, so that your first buy is the right one. If you are ready to start your home buying journey and want help putting together a real plan for your situation, I do offer one-on-one consultations, and the link for that is in the description below. But for the rest of you, let's get into it.
If you wait too long, you will not get the house. A buyer saw my listing before Thanksgiving. The agent expressed that the buyer had interest. I even joked to the agent that let's ratify this contract before Thanksgiving. Nothing happened. After Thanksgiving, they scheduled a second showing. Again, the agent said the buyer's interested. I answered questions that they had, and they didn't submit an offer. So I let it go. So this past weekend, we had a showing with another buyer. Agent told me that they're interested, answered questions, and the agent told me that she's going to submit an offer. At the same time, the first buyer's agent came back to me, texted me and said, hey, my buyer's ready to submit an offer. It's like 3 weeks later. I told the first agent, hey, I have another party who's interested. So the first buyer submitted their offer first, $25,000 less than list price, with a 24-hour deadline. Basically, my seller has to respond within 24 hours of them submitting an offer. The next morning, I received the second offer from the second buyer. Now we are in multiple offer situation. So I went back to the first buyer's agent and say, hey, do you want to amend your offer? I even showed him proof that I received the second offer, without showing any details, of course. Later in the day, they did submit their escalation clause on their offer, but it was not higher than the second offer. And now we're about to ratify the second contract. If the first buyer just submitted their offer in the original time, 2 weeks ago, they would have gotten a deal. They would have gotten the house. But they waited and waited and waited. And now they're back to square one.
And unfortunately, this right here is how it happens for so many buyers. A lot of people hear stories like this and think that the answer is just to move faster. But that's not really it. The real lesson is that speed in real estate does not come from rushing, but from being prepared. Because as the buyer, hesitation does not come from not caring, but usually from not feeling ready. It often sounds like, let me sleep on it. Let me think about it one more day. What if I make the wrong decision? What if I offer now and then end up regretting it later? Or overall, what if I just miss something? And those thoughts are normal. You're gonna have those, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, and this is one of the biggest financial decisions that you've made so far in your life. But the reason I really want you to understand this clip is because as a buyer, you need to understand what this looks like from the seller's side. The seller is not looking at your hesitation emotionally. They're not thinking that, oh, this buyer just needs some more time to think and make a decision. They're looking at who's serious, who's strong, and who looks like they're most likely going to actually close. That's it. So the moment you wait and another offer comes in, your position changes. Before, the seller may have been more open to your terms and more willing to negotiate. Before, you may have had more leverage than you realized. But once competition shows up, that leverage can disappear very quickly. And that is why hesitation costs so much. It's not just that you lost the house. Sometimes you lose out on the chance to negotiate from a stronger position. And this is why preparation matters. And I stress it so much on this channel. The conversations about your budget, your monthly comfort zone, your cash to close, your loan options, and your timeline should happen before you get emotionally attached to a house. That way, when the right house shows up, you're not scrambling trying to figure out if you can do it or not. You already know that you can. Now, the next question that people may be wondering or want to ask is, why do buyers hesitate in the first place? Because most people are not dragging their feet just to drag their feet. Usually, there's something deeper going on. Watch this.
We're seeing the first-time homeowner age is in the late 30s. Many people are predicting by the end of this year it might be early 40s. What would you change to get the American people to a place where they're buying homes sooner, more fiscally responsible?
In 1970, we were building 500,000 homes every year under 1,400 square feet. 80s, we go to 300,000. 90s, we go to 200,000. 2000s, we go to 150,000. Right now, we're hovering around less than 100,000 to 150,000. Why are we not building starter homes? It's not like this last generation was smaller than baby boomers. We build more 4 bedrooms than 3 bedrooms. Why are we building 4? We don't need 4 bedrooms. But why are you building 4 bedrooms? Because builders are sitting there saying there isn't that much money in smaller homes to build. So I'm going to go to this. And then you're seeing the bigger Black Rocks are coming in and they're buying up everything. They're almost forcing the market to go into renting. Just go rent. Don't worry about buying a house. You know what the younger generation is sitting there saying? Why would I buy a house today? Why don't I just take my money and put it into crypto? Why don't I buy Bitcoin? Why don't I go buy stock? Why don't I go buy an EFT? Why don't I go buy other things instead of buying real estate?
Now, this is the part where I want my buyers to give themselves some grace. Because a lot of times you all aren't slow. You're just overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by the down payment, the closing costs, the monthly payment, and even all the different things that you hear online. One person says wait for rates to drop, and another person says you need to buy now. Someone else is telling you you need to save more money, while the next person is saying you barely need anything to buy. So now you have all of this noise and pressure that you're putting on yourself, and the fear of making the wrong decision, while you're also trying to navigate making a smart choice in the midst of all of that. And if that is you, please know that feeling overwhelmed does not mean that you're behind or that you're doing anything wrong. It also doesn't mean that you're bad with money or that home ownership isn't for you. It usually just means that no one has taken the time to really break this process down for you in a way that makes sense. That is why hesitation is so common. Most buyers are not hesitating because they don't want the house. It's just they don't feel clear or confident enough to move forward. And that is a huge difference. Even though I'm talking to my buyers here, I still want you all to understand what's happening around you. The sellers on the market are still making decisions. Other buyers are still making moves. And the process itself is still moving forward whether you feel ready or not. So the real goal is not to shame yourself for being overwhelmed, but to get clear and confident in what that overwhelmingness is what we'll call it, has been blocking for you. And that is where good professionals are supposed to come in. A good agent or lender should not be making you feel more confused than you are. They should be helping you understand your real numbers, what actually matters now, what can wait and be addressed later, and what your next step should actually be. Because the goal should never be just to push buyers into homes, but to help buyers become prepared enough so that when they have to make those hard decisions, they're ready. Prepared buyers move fast without feeling rushed, and that's the difference. I also want to say this because I do agree with what they were saying in the video in a bigger way as well. A big reason that so many young people feel discouraged when it comes to home ownership is because it does feel like starter homes are not being built the way that they used to be. It feels like either everything is too expensive, too competitive, too small for its price, or being built up in a way that just doesn't leave a lot of room for an average person to get started. And honestly, sometimes it does feel like we're being pushed into more of a renting society. Because if housing keeps becoming harder to access, prices keep rising, and the entry point seems to keep moving further and further away, of course more people are going to ask themselves, why should they even buy? But I do want to add some balance to that though. Part of why the inventory has stayed tight and why things are not being built the same way that they were before is because after the housing crash in 2008, the industry changed a lot. What happened back then showed what can happen when too much bad lending, too much risk, and too much loose approval gets built into the market. So now things are tighter. Lenders are tighter, builders are being more careful, and in turn, inventory has not kept up the same way that it was in the past. And while that does create a different problem for us today, part of that shift is to protect us from 2008 happening again. So when people look around and wonder why there are not as many starter homes as there once was, or why housing feels so limited, that is part of the bigger picture too. And when they bring up young people asking, why should I buy when I could just rent and invest the difference? I think that's an important conversation, but it needs a little bit more honesty, because the truth is, not everybody's meant to be a homeowner. And I say that with love and not judgment, because this channel is for people who do want to own. The people who want a home to live in, to build a life in, to raise a family in, and just overall want something that they can call their own. I am not on this channel telling people that buying a home is only about investment returns, or that buying is the right answer for every single person, because it's not. For a lot of people, the purpose of buying their first home is not to beat the stock market, but to have a place to live in that's yours. And as a bonus, yes, there can also be a financial benefit to that. Because for many people, buying a home does act as a forced savings account. You're paying into something over time that can build equity, instead of just making a payment and walking away with nothing tied to your name. Now, of course, investing matters too, and I'm not against that at all. I'm an advocate for it. But the reality is, most Americans have not built the habit of consistently investing. And overall, a lot of people don't fully understand the stock market, don't trust it, and don't know how to use it in the way that many influencers talk about it online today. So when people make it sound as simple as just rent and invest the difference and you'll come out ahead, that advice sounds good on paper, but it doesn't always match up in real life. And I said all of that to say that is why I still believe home ownership has its place. Not because every house is some amazing investment, not because every person needs to buy, but because for the right person, buying still creates stability, structure, and a way to build something over time that a lot of people may not build any other way. And that is why these conversations matter so much, because I'm talking to people who do want that and just feel like it's becoming harder and harder to reach. Okay, hey, let's pause for a second. I promise it's so worth it. If buying a home is even on your radar, I put together something that's going to make the whole process a lot more clear. It's my Homebuyer starter kit, and it breaks everything down in a way that you can actually understand it. It's linked in the description below if you want to take a look at it. But for now, let's keep going. Now, let's take it a step further, because sometimes the cost of hesitation is not just about losing one house. Sometimes the cost is financial. Take a look at this.
I hate giving bad news to young couples who want to buy a home. So a couple reached out to me again a year later after I got them approved, but they didn't want to buy because their uncle said, wait it out, prices are going to dip, you're going to get a better deal. A year later, they waited out. Of course, prices did dip a bit, but the problem is rates went up. So they don't qualify for the house they want. They don't even qualify for what they qualified for last year because payments are up. To qualify now, they have to pay off a car. And if they paid off the car, there goes their down payment. So the thing is, most home buyers don't realize entry-level mortgage payments keep rising with inflation. Unless you have a huge down payment to offset inflation, it's not going to happen. The longer you wait to buy on 100% financing, 3% down, 3.5%, 5%, or 10% down, the more expensive it's going to get. If you don't believe me, look at the market. As rent rises, so will initial mortgage payments. So if you want to take advantage of the housing market, and if you don't have a big down payment, the sooner you buy, the cheaper it's going to be for you.
Now, this is something that catches a lot of people off guard. A lot of buyers say, I'm going to wait until prices come down, or until interest rates lower, or I've heard until the market gets better. And sometimes waiting can make sense depending on that person and their situation. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell everybody to buy no matter what. That's not real advice. But waiting has to be intentional. It cannot just be based on the fact that you're scared to move forward. Because if you wait without a real plan, what can happen is that rates move up, your buying power goes down, your potential monthly payment gets worse, and now the things that you were trying to avoid very well end up happening anyway. And this is where professional perspective comes in handy, because this is usually the part that most buyers don't see happening in real time. Every day, lenders see buyers who have waited and now qualify for less than they would have a few months ago. Agents see buyers come back frustrated because the house that they once passed on now feels out of reach. Professionals see how a small change in the market can directly affect what feels manageable and a payment to a buyer every month. So from the buyer side, I understand why waiting feels safer. In your mind, you're trying to be responsible and making sure that you make a wise move to not overextend yourself. But the market does not always reward waiting the way that buyers think that it will. Sometimes the house did not get more expensive. It's just that your money became weaker due to inflation. And that is why I keep saying that speed matters. Not in a panic type of way or a rushing type of way, but in a prepared one. Because the longer you stay undecided without understanding your numbers, the more exposed you are to changes that you cannot control. So, if you're someone who's been hesitating, I really don't want you to leave this video feeling ashamed. That is not my point. My point is to help you understand what hesitation is actually costing you so that you move differently. Because the answer is not to force yourself into speed or rushing. The answer is to build readiness. Readiness looks like knowing your numbers before you get emotionally attached to a house. Readiness looks like understanding your monthly comfort zone, not just what you technically qualify for. Readiness looks like knowing what you have saved, what your likely closing costs may be, what kind of loan are you considering, and what your timeline actually is. Readiness looks like asking questions early and not waiting until after you're under pressure. Readiness looks like having the right people around you so that when something does move quickly, you're not trying to learn what that is in real time. That is the real lesson here. So if I could sum this whole conversation up in a few points, it would look something like this. Number 1, hesitation usually comes from a lack of clarity, not a lack of interest. Number 2, sellers respond to certainty and strength, and understanding that helps you better position yourself as a buyer. Number 3, being overwhelmed is real, but being overwhelmed without a plan can keep you stuck. Number 4, waiting can cost you leverage, options, and in some cases, affordability. And last but not least, number 5, speed does not mean rushing. It means being prepared enough so that you can move with confidence. If you're watching this and know that you want to buy one day, and you're stuck in that space of, I want a home, but I don't think I'm ready enough to move forward, that is the exact kind of a situation where having a plan matters. I do offer one-on-one consultations where we can walk through your numbers, your timeline, and what your next step should look like so that you don't have to figure all of that out on your own. The link for that is in the description below. And if you're still learning and trying to become comfortable with the whole home buying process, check out these next 2 videos because they are going to help you build on what we talked about today and help you to make smarter decisions as you get closer to buying. Remember, when you know better, you buy smarter. Until next time, see you in the next one.